not funny.
Yes. You didn't hear it the first time.
Mandem.
Nora works in the vagina museum.
Yeah,
So tell them about the vagina museum.
There's a vagina museum?
Yeah.
I come
So
from big guys.
I was getting so like.
This is interesting. Yeah,
Why is sex so awkward to talk
yeah.
about?
Let's ask that question.
Why is sex so
Why is sex so awkward? Like,
Oh, because it's massively taboo.
everyone has
Like-
it. We are all here because of it.
Yeah.
Like, it's boom. Okay, welcome back. It's MTM Podcast with your boy Montz,
Mikez, am I?
Taz.
and we have a very, very special guest, our first woman on the podcast, my lovely friend, Nora Lempriere. Please give a round of applause for Nora Lempriere.
Come on, big up Nora.
Yes.
Come on, Nora.
So, Nora, it's Nora.
Oh, Nora.
Yeah.
All this time we've been saying Nora.
Oh my god.
N-O.
People do it all the time, don't worry.
Yeah. So, tell us about yourself, Nora. You know who you are, what you do.
Oh, that's a deep question. My name's Nora, and I am a actor and a writer and a director. And I also teach sex education to young people, and have like a general interest in like intimacy, and I work as a movement director a lot. I work at the Vagina Museum, just kind of generally in that field and in that kind of
Nothing's
pocket
a
in
You
the
know what's so
world.
crazy? I think we should have learnt sex education as we got older. Like, you know, in college times. Because in school, like, I didn't really take it seriously in school, did you?
Well, that's what I'm going to get to that point,
No,
because I
actually.
want to ask the Mandem first. Thank you. Nora, that was
Yeah.
amazing. What was
Yeah,
your
big up Nora.
Big her up. What was your first experience? So today, this episode is going to be about sex as a general topic, but also from a woman's perspective. And you know a lot. Like you said, you are, very keen on the topic of sex, and you work in the vagina museum. So I just wanted to ask the question.
Pardon?
Yes. You didn't hear it the first time. Nora works in the vagina museum.
Yeah,
So first of all,
I-
tell them about the vagina
What?
museum.
There's a vagina museum?
Yeah,
I come
so
from big guys. What's going on? What these front out is what we're doing. Why are we always going pool?
Give me pum pum, girl. Give me pum pum, girl.
You got these kind of friends that you're not taking us to the vagina museum with that.
so I just work there front of house, so I'm just like one of their front of house people.
So she's the first person you meet.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a really interesting place to work because it's like an educational museum, so it's like for all ages. So like their current exhibition is periods of brief history, and it takes you through from ancient times to like modern day about how people have dealt with menstruation. But like everyone thinks it's a sex museum when they come up because they're like, oh, it's a vagina. But actually it's like really about just educating people around like vaginas, I guess, and talking about like subjects that are quite taboo in that area. As opposed to it being, and sex museums are also great. Big fan of sex museums, but that's just
Yeah,
not
I went to
what
one in
it is.
Amsterdam.
Yeah. I've been to one in
So it was the
Amsterdam.
only thing we went to Amsterdam.
Yeah, that's the only thing I went to in Amsterdam, Mike.
Got a bit of hair in your chin now, but
You're not idiots.
So yeah, so I just want to ask an open question with everyone. What was your first experience of understanding what sex was, and how old was you? Very personal question, isn't it? So I'm not saying when did you first have sex. I'm basically saying like when did you understand the concept of sex? Do you know what I mean?
Shall I be honest?
I was young still.
Yeah,
I was
Mine
very-
was, do you remember Channel U back in the day?
yeah.
You know, like after
11
like 11 o'clock. I'll be honest with you. One day I was just up and I used to listen to Channel U, then it just changed to Channel XXX. So I was like, what's that?
So those that don't know Channel U was like an urban music station on Sky, which was you could like send your music video to it and like they'll put your music video on. But after hours, the music videos turned quite explicit.
Yeah.
So that's what Michael was watching.
For example, Skepta all over the house.
Yeah, I remember that. And gigs, there was one gig song as well.
Oh yeah.
That was a mad song. Still.
Okay. So Taz, what about you? What was your first experience of understanding what sex was?
I feel like, it's similar to Max as well. I'm not trying to draw nobody out right now. On the podcast.
There was a time where my time, I think I was similar. I was quite young. So I have older brothers in it, and so when I was growing up, my older brothers.
Can I pause?
Yeah.
I didn't want to be the one to say it, innit?
Yeah.
But I have older brothers, innit?
So like I would be so close to them, just be in their room and stuff. And as I was growing up, they were the age of like 16, 17. So hormones and stuff like that. So I remember one time I was like, oh, I want to watch Simpsons, and like they're like, yeah, you want to watch Simpsons? Sorry, I'm really drawing them out, and they put on Simpsons, but Simpsons finished quite quick, and all of a sudden there was this DVD that got plugged in, and I was just like, what is this? And I'm watching two teenage boys sitting at the TV just watching explicit videos, and I'm like, what is that? Like, what is it? I didn't get it. Obviously, I was like 5 or 6 at the time, and I just didn't understand what it was. But I can remember it to this day. I was like, oh, that's my first understanding of what sex was. But I didn't actually know. And then as I got older, I realized, oh, and then there's this kind of thing of pornography, and then there's, you know, sexual content, and then there's consent, and et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah. Nora, your experience?
Oh, mine's so much younger than yours.
I said 6, goddamn.
Yeah, like legit. I remember it's sort of because like I feel like I'm still trying to figure out what sex is, like how to define it in like as a thing. But like definitely in primary school, getting like I went to a Catholic primary school, and we got showed this video that was like, it was called Some of Your Bits Ain't Nice. Has anyone seen this video?
No.
And it's basically like these two people, it's like a cartoon, and it's two people, and they like touch, and there's like germs, and it's supposed to be like, oh, don't touch each other. Okay. Yeah, which I guess was like supposed to be sex in a way, but it wasn't really very clear. And then like, yeah, sex education in secondary school, and then just like watching telly and seeing like, for a really long time, I thought sex was just two people kissing in a bed. And that was like my whole concept of what it was and what it meant.
I did sex ed in year 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so what Mike was saying, he's like, what was you saying earlier on? You don't think it was
I don't think we actually learned anything.
Yeah, it's true.
It was
true.
more.
Yeah.
It was just more like like type of thing. Like, we weren't really.
Yeah, it's true.
It was more like science.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always presented like there is a sperm and there is an egg, and then that's how you. Yeah, I feel like especially like growing up in South London, it's very much like do not get pregnant. Yeah. Never get pregnant. Yeah. Is like the big.
There was
thing.
this like whole cloud of if you got pregnant, like it's very bad, or like it's this thing of just like trying to make sure you don't have sex rather than understanding what sex was. I think it was happening in our community a lot, and I think it hindered our community in a sense because it's like the curiosity kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? I think a lot of people fell into the curiosity of things of what is this, and then you realize, oh, this feels nice, or to some degree for some people, and it's like, oh, why am I not supposed to do this if it feels good? And then you fall into like this loophole of finding that information whilst you're doing it. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, very interesting. Yeah, that's
it's interesting you said, because I was born in Jamaica, innit? And obviously we're exposed to like a lot of stuff from young. Like we can walk outside the house and see somebody getting daggered and stuff like that type of thing. So the whole Jamaican culture and the music, the whole of it is just from young. You're seeing mad stuff. So. Trust me, when it comes to, if you think over here, we're exposed to it over here when I was young, in that country, it's crazy. You know what I mean? But part of growing up, innit? Yes.
Yeah, so, okay. So, another questions we want to ask. Right, Taz, you got any questions?
Not at the moment.
You guys are so quiet. It's so
as we go along.
You're both getting so like.
This is interesting.
I'm not revealing anything.
Yeah,
why is sex so awkward to talk about?
Let's ask that question. Why is sex so awkward? Like,
because it's massively taboo.
Everyone has it. We are all here because of it. Yeah. Like, it's
all have sex as well.
We all have sex. It's in modern day westernized culture. You know, it's literally in nearly every song you mentioned, whether it's a love song or a pop song, or do you know what I mean? It's everywhere. Even in rap music, there's always probably a line that is quite explicit. So why, like you said, like why is it so taboo? Why do we go in our shell? Why are we so not insecure, but like that vulnerability?
It's personal, isn't it? Sex
is
personal. Generally, it's between.
I want to say what it would have come out and draw everybody. Oh yeah.
Generally, it's between two people, in it, but obviously, I mean, in this day and age. Personally, I've seen a lot of stuff. I've been to sex parties and that type of things. So I've seen a lot of different stuff. So Like,
Do you want to expand on that? Do you want to expand on that, Mikez?
Just obviously, it's just a party. Like, it's just it's in the name. It's in the name. But obviously, like, it's not just like people randomly. Like, obviously, you have to like show certain like results, like sex, like because
like your cleaners.
Yeah, because obviously and you have to sign certain things and stuff like that. Indeed. So it's not just like, oh, we're having a sex party today, you come. It's like it's organised, isn't it? So
and if you don't want to go into it, you can start. But like, how did you feel going into those spaces? Because like you said, it's a controlled space. So did you feel safe, or did you feel like
I felt kind of awkward?
Okay. Like is it because you're like planning it? Is that
like I said, sex I think is quite personal. So to see like people just openly having sex type of thing was quite different. But obviously, like you experience stuff in your life, innit? I'm trying to say, but
tick,
yeah, man.
No, not tick. Any questions you
what
have?
What about sex parties or?
Yeah, just anything that you wanna share.
I mean, I've also been to a sex party.
Nice.
And I think they're fun. But I don't know. I've never really thought about it in any great detail, I guess. About like the personal aspect to it, I think is interesting. Like, and it being a personal, vulnerable thing, because it is massively personal and massively vulnerable. But it's treated in this like very casual way. Yeah. So it's like, I don't know.
It's quite interesting.
It's really interesting. Like, do you find like that you talk about it a lot in a particular way, or do you find that you like never talk about it?
That's it. It depends on my round.
Yeah.
Like these guys, I've told them about it before, and obviously the environment we're in now, we're talking about sex, so I feel comfortable talking about it, if that makes sense. But I wouldn't openly be like, oh, I went to a sex party,
Yeah,
like,
hey guys.
I'm trying to say it's a bit.
How's your day, Max? I just went to a sex party, bro.
It's quite interesting. Still.
So do you also think there's like connotations behind sex in the sense of how you're perceived? Like you said, you wouldn't just openly say certain things. So like, do you think there's like connotations behind the topic of sex or being vocal about sex? And also, is it different from men and women, or people who are heterosexual, who people?
That's a good point, because I think females are more open when it comes to sex. That's what I personally think. I think females talk about sex more than us.
Nora?
I think it depends on the person so much. And also, like, it's kind of hard for me to say that because, like, I talk about sex all the time with everyone in my life, regardless of their gender. So it's, like, quite a strange thing. I think there are differences. Like, I definitely have people in my life who I would talk in a lot greater detail. Like, if I'm talking to my best mate, we'll, like, go into absolute detail about, like, step by step everything that happened. But then there's definitely people in my life who sometimes will say something sexual and I'm like, oh, that's weird. What are you doing? No, that's strange. Oh, I don't like knowing that happens. And I don't know. I think it varies a lot. I think the way, I don't know, I don't really want to generalise. I think there's an assumed way that men will talk about sex if they're heterosexual that is very strange to me as a thing and as a concept of just being like, oh, like I've got the biggest dick and I like fucked all these girls and da 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 da, and it's like, okay, cool, that's fine. I'm not really that interested in that. Whereas I think now people are having a lot more like nuanced conversations about it as a thing, and I think that's way more interesting. And like even stuff like consent and like talking about like positions or like have you tried this thing or kinks or that kinds of stuff, I think is a lot more interesting to me as a person, as conversations, as opposed to being like, whereas when I was younger it was definitely a thing of like, look how many people I've had sex with, I'm so like liberated and cool. But yeah,
it added, for some reason, it added value to you if you had sex.
Yeah.
And then And then again, it goes
dependent on gender.
Again, yeah, exactly. Because in certain, for example, like in our community, there was a time where it's like, if like body counts, like to this day, sometimes it's like, oh, men put it up, and women put it down. And it's
Guys
like,
care about body count.
I'm grown. I don't give a damn.
I see it as like it was before me. It's not my
Hello.
business.
It wasn't my turn. It wasn't my turn.
Yeah.
Like really, truly, yeah.
That is edited out.
That is stated. Was it a turn? Yeah. Was it a turn? Yeah. Anyway,
Shut up, man. See now look what he's gonna done. Now look what he's gonna done. I mean, do you see what he's done now?
Oh,
yeah, check the time.
I'm checking nothing. So anyway, what was we saying? Sorry. Yeah, the connotation behind you know, like women would have to like in our community, like, lower down their number, and men be like, oh yeah, I was like this girl. And then like, both of you, why are you lying? Like, just be honest with yourself. But let's go to the topic of like consent, because I think this is a very important topic, because unfortunately, like I've spoken to many women in my life. Well, that sounds mad, but like, but a lot of women that I've spoken to in my life have always had a story of some degree of either, you know, sexual assault or like so lack of consent, and it really upsets me, because I'm like, this is extremely common, and then I feel like a lot of the time when I speak with women, they're like, because a lot of men don't hold their friends accountable, and I think that's also important when you're like, it's easy to be with your guys, you're like yeah, go over there and do this and da and laugh things off, but it's actually, you know, as men and if you're in a group as well, you have to like, bro, that's not cool. Don't do that and whatnot. So, yeah, like, what's your, just both of you as well, like, what's your like takes on consent?
Shout out to it is, yeah.
Consent is huge, bro.
Consent is huge, but I'm not trying to like bash no one or anything like that, but I think a lot of females nowadays, a lot of them, the way they carry themselves, and some of them, they put themselves in a position for that to happen.
This is why I brought Nora Lempriere.
Hear me out, Nora.
I don't agree, but
Nora, if a guy's calling
you're about to get cancelled, fam. You're about to get fucking cancelled. That's what I'm saying.
This is Nora. Listen, nobody's cancelled.
This is Mikez' own opinion.
All the females I've been with in my life, they can vouch. It's always been. You get it? There's some females have all jumped. Some females have like I've been in situations. I heard this. I've been in situations where like I've been like woken up from a girl like going down on me type of thing.
So that's assault
without my consent. But that's what I'm trying to. So it's different for males and different for females, but. I think
that's just assault.
But realistically, like, if I told the man them that, they're gonna think, raw, like that's mad. But if it was the other way around, like, if a girl said that to her female friends, they'd be like, raw, that's kind of mad.
Some people have that conversation beforehand.
Yeah, I think where it goes wrong is that it's because everyone just assumes that if a man has got a boner or erection, and you know that he's always gonna be like yes. It's like men is never gonna say no to sex. You know, there's this like thing of this blasé thing. Oh, men is never gonna say no to sex. Oh, you say no to me? Oh my god, you must be cheating. You must be doing this. You must be having someone else. Do you know what I mean? So in that sense, the reason why, even in your own mind, you might be like, oh, that's not sexual assault. That's just because I would want it, but did I allow myself to want it? Did I know I was gonna have, like? But then because when it's on the opposite side of things, you know, like, I don't know what I'm saying. Let me stop there.
Like with me, I've been in situations where like I've literally had to physically like push off a girl like more than one time, like to the point and I'm all sweating, I'm getting frustrated because sometimes I just want to chill and just relax. You know what I'm trying to say? Yeah. All of that stuff can come after, but if it's the other way around now,
that would be very
very kind of mad.
I mean. It's mad either way. I think, yes, there is, like, obviously, like, statistically, women are much more vulnerable to assault than men are, but that doesn't mean that if you've been in situations where someone has taken advantage of you sexually that it's not assault. Like, it absolutely is. And, like, your feelings about that are just as valid as anyone else's. It's not just because you're a dude and because there's this perception that men are think with their dicks or like are constantly being led by that and driven by sex doesn't make it true for you as an individual or for anyone necessarily. Like
Spitting.
Sometimes you see, I don't know about you, but sometimes I just want to relax and just talk and like talk about global warming, the environment, anything.
This guy don't know nothing about
Max, global warming.
I know a lot about global warming.
Okay, can you say something to me about global warming, Max?
Next episode, we're on global warming, led by Mike.
No problem.
But yeah, I totally agree with you.
No, I 100% agree.
But going back to my first point, I do think sometimes I feel more. Sometimes you get, without knowing it, you guys put yourself in that position for something like that to happen.
I really disagree with that.
I disagree.
How,
I think it's like a cultural
Prime example.
like thing is that like
Prime example. Like I've seen it plenty of times. A night out in Shoreditch, a female, she's pissed out of her head. She's by herself, walking by herself.
Yeah,
there's creeps in the world.
That's still not her fault.
Yeah, that's not her fault.
It's not her
still
fault.
allowing.
I know. I'm not saying it's her fault at all. I'm not saying it's her fault at all. I'm just saying you've put yourself in that position for that to happen.
Let me be a mediator. I agree with Nora in the sense of that's still not her fault because she's allowed to do it.
It's never her fault.
However, I think what Mike's is also saying is that you have to be, unfortunately, in this world, you have to be realistic.
Yeah,
and know
prevention.
that there are unfortunately, like there are people out in this world that are like creeps in a sense and will pounce on vulnerable people. So what I think what Mikez is trying to say is not saying that you're a bad woman for getting yourself pierced and etc. etc. I think what he's saying is like you have to be cautious around people that will try and prey on you because they will take advantage if they see any opportunity. And I think I understand that, like, there are so many people, like, not so many, but there are a group of people like that, and you have to be aware of them. But however, I do also agree with you in a sense of that doesn't give you the right to, if I want to get hammered on night out,
it doesn't justify
it. doesn't justify anything.
It never does.
If I want to wear just, a boob tube, or if it's a Mandem and it's like, I just want to wear shorts today and a top off, that still doesn't give you the rough or anyone the authority to touch me or to catcall me or to grope me or suggest that I want any sexual activity because I may have smiled or laughed or not even responded. You know what I mean? There is give and take. Like, I totally agree, but I also acknowledge that in this world, not everyone thinks how we should be thinking. And therefore, you have to also go, right, I want to have fun, but where can I, not draw the line, but where do I need to be wary? I think this is why most time in social groups, not everyone's always drunk. There's always at least one person that's a bit focused because...
Have to be.
You have to, unfortunately, you have to be. And that's so upsetting because it's like, why should I? But in this world, there are people that will spike your drinks. There are people that take advantage of you.
100%.
And it's still not... It still shouldn't happen, and it's not your fault. Because there's men and women that have been sexually assaulted with full clothes on, not even with sexual assault and abuse was happening when people were wearing frocks to their knees and stuff like that. So it's not about. I don't believe it's about the clothing you're wearing nowadays and stuff like that. It's all crap because it's been happening for ages. But you just have to understand this is the world we're living in. Unfortunately, not everyone thinks how we think. But at the same time, you should still have the right to do what you like to do.
And to end that day, I was going to say to the listeners, we're sorry. Trigger warning. We should have given a trigger warning.
Yeah.
We'll put
We
that
do
at the beginning of the
apologize.
video.